I was 5 years old when I fell in love with photography. My aunt gave me a cheap disposable camera for my birthday, and I spent the entire day taking pictures of everything. Clouds shaped like dragons, my dog's nose up close, my dad's hands, as he fixed our old truck. When we got the photos developed, most were blurry or half-captured, but there was one, a perfect shot of a monarch butterfly resting on our mailbox that my aunt said showed a natural eye. She framed it and hung it in her hallway, where it stayed until the day she died. That little rectangle of captured time made me feel something I couldn't yet name. Pride, yes, but something more, like I'd found a secret language only I could speak. Maya's taking pictures again, my mother would sigh whenever I'd beg for another disposable camera. Such a waste of money for blurry photos. But my aunt kept encouraging me, and by 13, I'd saved enough from odd jobs to buy my first real camera, a second-hand digital point-and-shoot that I treated like it was made of gold. By 17, I'd upgraded twice through careful saving, summer jobs, and the occasional small photography gig for family friends. My high school photography teacher, Ms. Lin, started entering my work in contests. I won a few, even had one published, in a local magazine. "That's nice, honey," my dad would say, barely glancing at my accomplishments. "But what about college? Photography is a nice hobby, but you need something reliable." I heard hobby so many times it started to sound like an insult. My sister Amy, 2 years younger, never had to worry about such things. Her interest in business and marketing was practical and forward-thinking. When she needed a laptop for school, my parents bought her the best. When she wanted to join an expensive business camp, they found the money. Amy was the sensible one, the one with a future. I was just playing with toys. Despite their doubts, I enrolled in art school with a focus on photography, working 2 part-time jobs to cover what my scholarships didn't. My parents reluctantly helped with some expenses, but every dollar came with the same lecture about real careers and backup plans. By my junior year, my portfolio had grown impressive enough to land me some paid gigs, graduation photos, engagement shoots, small events. I reinvested every penny into better equipment. The day I bought my Canon EOS R5 with the 24-70mm lens, a $3,500 investment, was the proudest day of my life. I'd saved for over a year, researched exhaustively, and finally pulled the trigger. That camera wasn't just equipment, it was affirmation that I was serious, that this was my path. $3,500 for a camera? My mother had nearly fainted when I told her. "Maya, that's insane. You could have put a down payment on a car." "It's a professional tool, Mom. This is my career." She'd just shaken her head. "If you say so, honey." After graduation, while Amy was still in college, our mom lost her job. Dad's construction work had slowed with the economy, and suddenly, money was tight. Without being asked, I moved back home and started contributing to bills while building my photography business. It meant delaying my plans to get my own apartment, but family comes first, right? I converted a corner of the basement into a small studio, took on any client who'd pay, and slowly built a name for myself in our town. Most months, I was contributing nearly half the household expenses while still being treated like I was playing. Pretend. Amy, meanwhile, was the golden child, getting internships, making real career moves, being lauded for her ambition. "When are you going to get a real job with benefits?" Dad would ask during dinner, right after I'd handed him money. "For the electric bill. You can't take pictures forever." I'd been taking pictures for 18 years at that point. It wasn't a phase. Things came to a head last spring. Mom had finally found a new job, and financially, they were getting back on their feet. I was planning to move out within a few months, had even started apartment hunting. Then Amy came home from college for spring break with an announcement. "I got accepted to this amazing business retreat in Bali," she squealed over dinner. "It's a 2-week immersive experience with top executives. It'll look amazing on my resume." "That's wonderful, sweetie," Mom beamed. "When is it?" "Next month. during summer break. But her excitement faltered. It's expensive, like $4,000 expensive. I watched my parents' faces fall. Dad cleared his throat. Well, that's probably not doable right now, Princess. We're just getting back on solid ground. Amy's face crumpled in that way it always had since childhood, the look that inevitably led to my parents moving heaven and earth to make her happy. I braced myself. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, she argued. Maya, you understand investing in your future, right? You bought that expensive camera. I nearly choked on my water. I saved for over a year to buy that with my own money. It's how I make my living. Well, I'm investing in my future too, she shot back. We'll figure something out, Mom interjected, giving me a look that said, don't ruin this. Later that night, Amy knocked on my door. Her eyes were red from crying. I know you think I'm spoiled, she said, sitting on my bed. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. She sighed. Look, I know you've been helping out a lot, and I appreciate it. But this retreat could change my life. There'll be recruiters from major firms there. I get it, I said. But I can't help you with this, Amy. I'm saving to move out, and I just invested in new editing software. She bit her lip. What if I just borrowed your camera? I could pawn it and then buy it back when I get my scholarship disbursement next semester? I stared at her in disbelief. Are you serious right now? That's my livelihood. I have 3 weddings booked next month. You could rent one, she suggested, as if it were the most reasonable solution in the world. Just for a month or 2? Absolutely not. We're done talking about this. She left in a huff, and I locked my camera equipment in its case, suddenly uneasy. I knew my sister. When she wanted something, she rarely took no for an answer. The next few days were tense. Amy moped around dramatically while my parents tried to brainstorm solutions for her trip. No one mentioned my camera again, and I started to feel paranoid for even worrying about it. I had 2 photo shoots that weekend, so I mostly stayed out of the house, trying to avoid the drama. When I returned Sunday evening, the house was quiet. Amy was watching TV in the living room, looking oddly satisfied. My parents were in the kitchen, speaking in hushed tones. Something felt off. I went to my room and immediately checked my equipment case. It was empty. For a moment, I just stood there trying to process. Then panic set in. I tore through my closet, under my bed, anywhere it might be. Nothing. With my heart pounding, I stormed into the living room. Where is it? I demanded. Amy didn't meet my eyes. Where's what? My camera, my lenses, my entire case is gone. Maya, calm down, my father said, entering from the kitchen. We need to talk. My mother followed, wringing her hands. Honey, we know you're upset. Where is my camera? Each word felt like it was being ripped from my throat. We sold it, my father finally admitted, to Roland down at the pawn shop. The room started spinning. You did what? Maya, Amy needs this opportunity, my mother pleaded. You can buy another camera. You're always upgrading anyway. Another toy, my father added dismissively. You'll replace it soon enough. Toy. The word hit me like a physical blow. That toy cost me $3,500. It's how I make my living. You had no right. We'll pay you back, my mother interrupted. When? I challenged. I have a wedding this Saturday. I've been paid a deposit. My parents exchanged glances. You'll figure something out, my father said. Maybe this is the push you need to look for a more stable job. Anyway, I looked at Amy, who at least had the decency to look somewhat ashamed, though there was a triumphant gleam in her eyes she couldn't quite hide. You're going to Bali on my livelihood, I said quietly. I hope you enjoy it. I turned and walked back to my room, closed the door, and for the first time since I was a child, I cried over photography. Not just for the equipment, but for the years of dismissal, of belittlement, of having my passion treated as frivolous while my sister's every whim was sacred. That night, I made 3 calls. First, to Roland at the pawn shop, who confirmed my parents had sold my camera kit to him for $2,000, far below its value. He agreed to hold it for me if I could get the money together quickly. Second, to my best friend Lisa, asking if I could crash at her place for a while. Third, to my mentor and occasional employer, Victor, who owned the biggest photography studio in town. By morning, I had a plan. I packed everything I could fit into my car while my family was still asleep and left a note on my bed. You've made it clear where I stand in this family. I'm not a child anymore, and photography isn't a hobby or a phase. It's my career, my passion, and my life. I've helped support this household for the past year without complaint. In return, you've stolen from me. I won't be coming back until you understand that what you've done isn't just hurtful, it's theft. I'll find a way to make Saturday's wedding work, no thanks to you. Maya. I moved in with Lisa that day and told Victor my situation. He was outraged on my behalf and immediately offered me a full-time position at his studio with a small salary advance that would help me get back on my feet. Between that and the emergency fund I'd been saving for my apartment, I was able to buy back my camera equipment from Roland 3 days later. The texts and calls started almost immediately after I left. First, from my mother. Maya, you're overreacting. Come home and we'll talk about this. Then my father. This childish behavior proves our point. Time to grow up. Amy didn't contact me at all. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I threw myself into work. The wedding that Saturday went perfectly. The bride cried when she saw the preview shots. Victor was impressed enough with my work that he started giving me more responsibility, more clients. Within a month, I was earning more than I ever had. Lisa's 1-bedroom apartment was cramped with the 2 of us, so I found a tiny studio of my own. It was barely bigger than a closet, but it was mine, paid for with money I earned from doing what I love. I bought a second-hand desk, set up my editing station, and hung some of my favorite photos on the wall, including a reprint of that butterfly picture from when I was 5. 2 months passed. My parents' messages grew increasingly desperate, then angry, then pleading again. I maintained my silence. It wasn't about punishment. I just couldn't find the words to express the depth of my hurt, and I wasn't ready to hear their excuses. Then, I got the opportunity that changed everything. A travel magazine was looking for a photographer for a 3-part series on national parks. The pay was excellent, the exposure even better. I submitted my portfolio, interviewed, and to my shock, got the job. I'd be traveling for 6 weeks, all expenses paid, shooting some of the most beautiful landscapes in the country. The night before I was set to leave, my phone rang with my mother's number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. Hello? My voice sounded foreign to my own ears. Maya! My mother's voice was tight. Something's happened. Your father's had an accident at work. He fell from a scaffold. He's in surgery now. My heart dropped. Is he? The doctors say he'll recover, but he broke his leg badly. He won't be able to work for months. She paused. I know you're still angry, but we need you. There it was. They needed me, not because they valued me or respected my work, but because they needed financial help again. I'm leaving tomorrow for a 6-week assignment, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. It's a major opportunity for my career. Maya, please. Your career can wait. This is family. 4 months ago, those words would have worked. I would have canceled the assignment, moved back home, covered the bills, and put my dreams on hold. Again. But something had changed in me. Mom, I'm sorry about Dad, and I'll come visit him in the hospital tomorrow before I leave. But I'm not canceling this assignment, and I'm not moving back. But how are we supposed to manage? The panic in her voice was real. The same way other adults do. Dad has insurance, right? Apply for disability. Cut back on expenses. Ask Amy to help. She's graduating soon, isn't she? With that business degree, that was worth selling my camera for? That's not fair, Maya. Neither was treating my career like a joke while I helped support the household. Neither was selling the tools of my trade without my permission. A long silence followed. Finally, she said, "We were wrong about the camera, about everything. We see that now." It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever get from her. "I'll come by tomorrow morning," I said, then hung up. I did visit my father in the hospital the next day. He looked smaller somehow, confined to the bed with his leg elevated. The confident, dismissive man who had called my life's passion a toy was humbled by pain and worry. "Maya," he said when I entered the room, "you came." Of course I did. I set a small pot of daisies on his bedside table. "How are you feeling?" Like an idiot who wasn't careful on a scaffold, he attempted a smile. And like an even bigger idiot, who didn't see what was right in front of him until it was gone. I sat in the chair beside his bed, waiting. He struggled to continue. "Your mother told me about your photography job, traveling and taking pictures for a real magazine." He shook his head slightly. "I should have seen it sooner. You're actually doing it, making a living with your camera." "Yes, I am." "I'm sorry." "Maya, we both are. What we did with your camera?" He winced, and I wasn't sure if it was from physical pain or regret. "It was wrong. We were wrong." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. "We were scared," he continued. "Construction work is getting harder as I get older. Your mother's job isn't stable. We pinned too many hopes on Amy's future, thinking she'd be the successful one who could help us later. We didn't see that you were already successful, just in a way we didn't understand. It was more self-awareness than I'd ever heard from my father. "We need you to come home," he said finally. "Not just for money. We miss you. The house feels wrong without you." I took a deep breath. "I can't come back, Dad. Not to live. I have my own place now, my own life, and I'm leaving today for this assignment." His face fell, but he nodded. "I understand. But," I continued, "I can help some. I'll send what I can for bills while you're recovering, and when I get back, we can talk. Figure out what comes next." Relief washed over his features. "That's more than we deserve." "Probably," I agreed, which made him let out a surprised laugh. "When did you get so strong?" I smiled slightly. "Carrying camera equipment builds muscle." As promised, I left for my assignment that afternoon. For 6 weeks, I traveled from Yellowstone to Yosemite to the Grand Canyon, capturing landscapes that took my breath away. I sent money home weekly as promised and called to check on my father's recovery. Our conversations were stilted at first, then gradually more natural. Neither of us mentioned the camera incident directly again, but something had fundamentally changed in how they spoke about my work. When I returned, I had a portfolio full of stunning images, a significant paycheck, and a standing invitation to work with the magazine again. I also had 3 voicemails from major clients who had seen my published photos and wanted to book me. I visited my parents' house for dinner my first night back. Amy was there, back from Bali and freshly graduated. She seemed different, more subdued, less entitled. "Your photos in the magazine were amazing," she said during a lull in conversation. "I showed everyone in my program." "Thanks," I said, surprised. "I've been meaning to say," she hesitated, "I'm sorry about what happened with your camera. It was wrong of me to ask, and wrong of all of us to go behind your back." I studied her, seeing genuine regret in her eyes. "Did you at least learn something? Useful in Bali?" A flash of shame crossed her face. "Not really. It was mostly rich kids networking and partying. I should have just done a regular internship." Our parents exchanged looks across the table. "Well," I said, cutting into my chicken, "expensive lessons usually stick better." Later, as I was helping my mother with the dishes, she asked, "Will you ever forgive us?" I thought about it while drying a plate. "I already have. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean going back to how things were. What does it mean then? It means we build something new, something with more respect, more understanding. I set the plate in the cabinet. I'm not moving back, Mom. I'm doing well on my own, but I'll be around more. Sunday dinners, holidays, and if there's a real emergency, I'll help if I can. She nodded, blinking back tears. That's fair. My father called me the next day. I found something, he said without preamble. Can you come over? When I arrived, he led me to the garage. In the corner was a dusty box I'd never seen before. What's this? Open it, he urged. Inside were dozens of photographs, all mine from age 5 onward, carefully stored in plastic sleeves. Pictures from disposable cameras, my first digital, school projects, contest entries. An entire chronicle of my development as a photographer that I had no idea he'd kept. You saved these? I asked, stunned. Every single one you ever showed us. He sat heavily on a nearby stool, his healing legs still bothering him. I may not have understood your passion, Maya, but I always saw it. I just let fear cloud my judgment. Fear that you'd struggle, that you'd blame us for encouraging you down a difficult path. I lifted a photo from when I was about 11, a silhouette, of our old oak tree against a sunset. It was compositionally naive, but showed the beginnings of an eye for light. I was wrong, he continued. We won't make that mistake again. That box became a bridge, not erasing the hurt they'd caused, but showing me that even in their misguided way, there had been love beneath their dismissal. It wasn't enough to go back to how things were, but it was somewhere to start. 3 years have passed since then. At 26, I now own my own photography business with a small studio downtown. I specialize in portraits and commercial work, but still take landscape assignments whenever that magazine calls. I have an apartment with a spare room I've converted into a home office. My parents have been there exactly once for a housewarming dinner. They seemed genuinely proud as they looked at the framed magazine covers and client photos on my walls. Amy and I have a better relationship now, too. After her business retreat disappointment, she got a reality check about her expectations. She works in marketing for a local company and recently asked me to teach her some basic photography for their social media. It was the first time she'd shown interest in what I do, and teaching her felt like healing an old wound. My parents still occasionally slip and refer to my career as my photography thing, but they catch themselves now. Dad came to one of my gallery showings last month and overheard someone praising my work. Later, he told me, I never realized other people could see what you see through that lens. It's like you show them a world they've been missing. It was perhaps the most meaningful compliment he could have given me. As for that Canon camera they sold, it's been upgraded twice since then. The one I use now is even more expensive, even more professional, and entirely paid for by my hobby. But more importantly, I own every aspect of my life now. My time, my choices, my boundaries. Sometimes love means drawing lines that can't be crossed. Sometimes family means leaving to find yourself before you can come back as equals. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all, just quietly building the life others said you couldn't have, until the evidence speaks for itself through your lens.